All right. I waited just to see what we were going to have before I jumped into anything for more people to be named in the new Superman Legacy movie. So you got David Corenswet, and yes, I know he looks like a young Cavill, but there is a certain look to Supes. If you look at Tom Welling, if you look at even Reeves and stuff, they all kind of have a certain je ne sais quoi, we can say, to what they look like with the hair, the eyes, and things like that. So I know people are like, well, he looks like a young Cavill. Well, yeah, Superman Legacy is supposed to be near the beginning of his career, his young adulthood, probably similar to that Superman Man of Tomorrow movie. I'm going to take a guess. Somewhere in that, maybe a little after that, but kind of like how we got the Batman is basically Batman Year 2. It's probably going to be something like that, 2 or 3 years. So, and yes, I do acknowledge that Cavill got screwed, and it's stupid, and I wanted my Man of Steel 2, the way they said it, and I wanted him to get to tell his story. But you know, I'm going to see what they do. I get why they're trying to reboot. The Flash definitely was a surprising failure. I thought The Flash would at least do okay. I wouldn't think it would be struggling where Black Adam is. I think it's a decent movie. Now, we also have Taylor Hoechlin, who is an amazing Superman, and it sucks that they have to do all these budget cuts to do that. Because if you don't like Cavill, or even if you love Cavill, either side, but you want to see a very traditional Superman, go watch Superman and Lois. Even if you're not a fan of Superman and Superman, go watch Superman and Lois. It is an excellent show. It's well to do. It's Superman probably a decade or so into his career, so it might be the furthest version of Superman that we're following. Because I think the furthest one is Reeves with Brandon Routh when he came back for the crossover. I think he's been Superman for like 20-something years, where I think Taylor's only been Superman for maybe 10 to now 13 years, somewhere like that. Maybe a little longer, but somewhere along those lines. Because I know with the Lex story, so well, he's up there. But I don't mind seeing Superman struggle and being human. That's the big part. I like seeing him being human. But I digress. Taylor Hoechlin is an amazing Superman, and it sucks that the 4th season might be the final season because they may not be able to afford it. But when it comes right down to it, I'm getting tired of reboot Superman because we got... So think about it. Since the early 2000s, we got Brandon Routh, Taylor Hoechlin. We still had Tom Welling from Smallville. We then turn around and have Cavill, and now we're getting another person. So I like James Gunn overall. I've enjoyed his movies. He has one of my favorite horror B movies, which is Slither. Maybe one day I'll review it if I ever remember to or have the time. But if you ever get to want to see, like, you love B horror movies, like it was like he took Night of the Creeps, which is also a love letter to B horror movies. For some reason, there's like slug things, but he was able to do it in a different way. Night of the Creeps, also an excellent movie. And that one hit a few genres, so those are just little sidebars. But beyond that, I digress. James Gunn has done enough, like the trauma movies, everything that I like what he does. I actually enjoyed Brightburn. I don't remember if I reviewed it or not. So I want to see what he does, because people go, oh, James Gunn can only do comedy stuff. I'm like, Brightburn wasn't funny. Just saying. So he can do other stuff. Let's see him do it. And I know he wanted to be a comic book writer, which is why I don't care what anyone says, I think Guardians is some of the best Marvel stuff around, and I think it's some of the last good Marvel stuff for MCU. But when it comes right down to it, between Tom, Ralph, Cavill, and Hoechlin, I'm just kind of to a point that I'm like, okay, this guy needs to be Superman for like the next 20 years. I'm done with the jumping. If you're going to do the TV show, you might as well keep who you already have with Tyler Hoechlin. He's an amazing Superman. I don't want to see another Superman start up for a long time. I'm like, it's time to stick down and knuckle this down. Now, I know there's people who are upset about David Corenswet, but I also saw a lot of people fan cast him. It was like him, the dude from Euphoria, the tall guy. And it was like somebody else. So I see David, and I know people were saying David Corenswet and Emma Mackey, but instead they got Rachel Brosnahan, which is funny because she was actually my pick. I was like, oh, I think she would make a good Lois Lane. She's from that Miss Maisel show. I've seen a couple episodes of it. It's because I like the other actors from Mad TV. And I checked it out. It's not bad. So it seems like I was like, oh, she would make a good Lois Lane. I don't know why, but for some reason I watched her and said she would make a good Lois Lane, and now they got her. Now I know with Brosnahan, I know besides Miss Maisel, she was on the Blacklist. I remember her on the 50 States of Fright. I never got to finish up. I remember her being on that, and I think it was The Coroner or something. So I've seen her in a couple things. She, I think, could pull it off. Corenswet, I think I remember him being in Pearl, which I haven't finished that movie yet because I forgot that I didn't finish X. So I was like, crap, I started the movie. It was sometimes you gotta be careful when you're on like the streaming services. Like yesterday, I wanted to watch A Quiet Place, and I was doing stuff, and I turned it on, and for some reason started playing Quiet Place 2. So, but yeah, I remember him being on that, and I think the other movie I do remember seeing him in is We Own the City. So I've seen him in a couple of things. I could see it. I know he's like 6'4" and stuff like that. He has a good look. He's just going to bulk up. I want him to be Hemsworth kind of big or get close to that. I don't want a lean Superman. And I'm not saying he's going to bulk up. Anyone who gets hired for these roles, you're supposed to bulk up and stuff. But I want him to like... He doesn't have to get big, but I want him to be a presence when you see him. Like when you see Chris Hemsworth, he feels like a presence. When you see Cavill as Superman, he feels like a presence because of how big he is. But I understand him being younger. You don't need to bulk up like crazy. I think he should just bulk up. And then when he gets the second movie, really bulk up. So it looks like Superman's been progressing. I'm okay for it. I just don't want any more Superman reboots. That's just me personally. I'm tired of the rebooting. I get where DC's doing. I get it. I'm here for it. He isn't my pick, but he's not a pick to be mad. But if I had it my way, Cavill would get Man of Steel 2, and we would have moved forward. And I do think Flash and some of these were hurt, not just because of Ezra's actions. I do also think because people, after James Gunn pretty much said these don't matter, I think people said, well, why do I care? So we'll see. That's my thoughts on it. I want to hear your thoughts. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, the casting sucks, because people said that about Affleck. People said that about Heath Ledger, even though I supported Heath Ledger because Heath Ledger was one of my favorite actors from The Door. I went to the movies to see The Order just to give you an idea of, I was really a fan of that guy. I thought he was a great actor, and it took him to do that role for people to catch on how good of an actor he truly was. Which is sad, but it happens. And I was actually okay with Michael Keaton when I was a kid because I was like, oh, I could see it. I see his eyes and stuff. I think I always had the belief, and I remember younger, that comedians can also... I know I learned a long time ago from a kid that comedy comes from a place of pain a lot of times. That's why when you see the comedy mask, it's the happy and the sad face, because comedy and tragedy are like two sides of the same coin. And, you know, if you just look up Drew Carey's life and things like that, you'll find out a lot of comedians went through things to be funny. So I understood that. And, you know, and Jack Nicholson, I always loved Jack Nicholson. When people are like, he's too old, I'm like, I love Jack Nicholson. To this day, I think he's still the best Joker. And I think every Joker after him has taken cues from what he's done. But that's a conversation for another time. So, yep, I'm downward. I like to hear what you guys say. I just don't want another Superman recasting again for like the next 20 years. Maybe if you do a side Superman thing or something, sure. But I'm just like, I'm kind of over the recasting. Kind of like with Spider-Man. I'm like, I don't want another Spider-Man for another few more like years before you go, oh, let's reboot Spider-Man. Like, I'm kind of tired of certain characters just constantly getting rebooted. So that's just me. Geek Protagonist, you stay safe, you stay healthy, stay real. Like I said, that's just my opinion. I think it's cool. I think he's young enough and she's young enough that they can carry this on for the next 10 to 20 years. And that's what I want. Maybe they'll give him a son, and then eventually Jonathan will take over as he takes the backseat eventually. So we'll see. See ya.